Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of The Other Side of Addiction. I'm your host Al Riches, and I am here with the lovely Charity Fuller. Charity, thank you for stepping in today.
Thanks for having me, Al.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure to have you in the studio with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, great. Hey, we want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Resilience Talk Network. We just want to say thank you to Brad for all he does. I mean, this guy does a lot behind the scenes for us, and we're very, very grateful for him. And if anybody out there is thinking about starting a podcast and wants a studio, talk to Brad. We are working on making it look a lot cooler. I mean, we went from a blank wall to a wood wall that Charity's boyfriend did for us. Mm-hmm. We're so grateful to Shane for him doing this for us, just out of the love of his heart. But yeah, we've got 3 ladies here. We need some interior decorators to help us please open this up. But anyway, hey, we've got a really special guest with us today. We have Tricia Bateman. Tricia, thank you so much for being here.
Gosh, it's an honor. Truly is.
We've been working for a while to get you on the show. Now you were a co-host.
Yep.
When you and JD interviewed Jeanette and I.
Yep. Which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that one was that was cool, and it was great having you here. But now, now we got you on the other side.
I'm glad Charity's here too.
It does feel different right there, doesn't
it? It does. But I'm talking about something that I know a lot about. Me, so should be okay.
Yeah. It's it's not really funny, but it's just really cool to see when guests come on. A lot of times, at the start of it, they're like, "Oh, I'm so nervous," and we do our best here in the studio, whether they're in the studio or on Zoom, to talk to them and start getting them comfortable. And it's once we kind of know that, it's like, okay, let's get into the show. But after the show, I don't think not once where we've had someone go, "Oh my gosh, I was so nervous throughout the whole thing." They're all like, "You guys made it so easy." It was so cool to be a part of it. But
nice.
Yeah. So I know quite a bit about you.
Yeah.
Just because you're my wife, Jeanette's sponsor. Mm-hmm. And gosh, we talked about a ton of stuff the last time we went hiking.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff. But let our audience know just a little bit more about you. I mean,
okay.
Are you from Salt Lake here?
No, actually, I was born of goodly parents. I just don't know how much to get into it, but I actually moved around a lot when I was growing up. My mom and dad, I have to mention them. They're just such an awesome story. They were high school sweethearts from Bear Lake, Idaho. They went to Montpelier High. Oh. And they came from not, ton of money, but my dad's grandpa and his 7 brothers were all railroaders, and my dad decided to break the mold. He really wanted to be a doctor, and he was actually almost shunned or discouraged to do that because he was breaking the tradition, the brotherhood, and he was even told by school counselors that he didn't really have what it takes to be a doctor. They didn't have the means and all the stuff, but
wow.
My mom wanted to be a nurse, and just them against the world. They took off from Montpelier. They graduated in 55, got married in 57, and my dad became a doctor, my mom a nurse, and they were married 60 years, just about 60 when my mom passed away. So super cool story.
That is cool.
But I have 2 brothers. I'm the middle. I'm an only girl, and my older brother, he's a doctor in Boise. And thank heavens my younger brother didn't do medicine. He is a movie score producer and has made quite the living. Yeah, here in Utah. Yeah, both of my brothers are just amazing humans and solid individuals, and which kind of leads to the story as life went on, because I always felt like, I just wasn't as smart and didn't make it as far as community or as far as the world sees successful, but they're just awesome men. And so anyway, we moved around a lot. I was thinking about that. We finally settled down. I came around in Denver, so where my dad went to medical school. Then he got drafted in the Army for a couple of years. We lived in Missouri. And once that tour was over, it was during Vietnam War, he was one of 2 doctors that didn't actually have to go to Vietnam. He stayed on the base and kind of ran things, so I'm forever grateful for that. But then once that was done, we moved to Salt Lake, and my dad did his surgery residency here. So that was in 1968 to 71, 4 or 5 years, yeah. And then we moved to Pocatello, Idaho, which I kind of claim I'm from. I lived there literally 12 years. To this day, I still call it home, and I've lived here like 36 years now. But
just kind of where the roots just kind of grabbed for you.
It's amazing to me, those formative years are so important, right? Like where you went to junior high and high school, and ultimately it's where I went to nursing school. But my mom got really ill when we were in Missouri. She had autoimmune disease that she struggled with her whole life, bless her heart. And so between my dad working hard, trying to make, life as a surgeon, and, having nothing, working every other night, 3 small kids, and then this sick mom, that's kind of where my journey began as far as becoming this fiercely independent little girl trying to make it in the world. I have real vivid memories of being by myself. My 2 brothers kind of paired off and were buddies. If anybody ever asks me my opinion on how many kids you should have, I always tell them, do it in even numbers. Don't have an odd man out, because I was always that person. I think because I was a girl, and then, there's only 3.
Yeah.
But, really solid family for the most part, and loving and accepting. I think one of the biggest things with getting in trouble with substances later in life was learning that addiction has no prejudice. And it's not me being a bad person needing to learn how to be good,
right?
But that I suffered with something, and I believe I suffered from the get-go with it. A lot of people talk about drinking and then crossing a line where they became alcoholic, but I didn't even touch substances till I was well into my late 20s. I think it was 30. But I still had those tendencies and behaviors. I reached out here to making here feel better in all kinds of ways. And so I kind of feel like my uncle tells the story of when I was 2 years old. Like, I don't even remember it. I was so young, and I just riddled with shame about it. Like when he starts telling the story about the time I didn't get my way in a restaurant, and oh my gosh, I threw this tantrum and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so sorry. I feel so terrible. But the truth is, I just came out like very passionate, very sensitive.
Yeah.
It was all or nothing, and ultra sensitive and defiant. And if I didn't get my way, I guess I let the world know about it. So anyway.
Well, you voiced your opinion. I mean, we have 3 grandkids, and our youngest granddaughter is the middle.
Yeah. And
I've seen some behavior out of her, and even my daughter's like, Dad, I don't know, we're just not making that connection, so she's that middle child as well. And her sister, gosh, our oldest granddaughter, I mean, this girl just excels at everything that she does. And this is just our opinion. We think that maybe she's thinking she has to stand up and be like her sister. Maybe. And even times when I'm with her, like when we go birthday shopping for her, and it's like, you're beautiful who you are, and we're wanting to get that across to her, letting her know you don't have to be anybody but you.
Right. That's
great. And I know my daughter and her husband are working on that, making sure that, she does get the attention and, and stuff. So, because they've noticed a little bit of a difference. Right. As well. So, and Janan's always said, the middle child always seems to have,
It's true.
Yeah.
It's so true, because my middle siblings, and then, of course, the baby, they got all the love.
Yeah.
Like, brats. No.
We'll have to edit that one out later or what?
Yeah. No, they know I love them. I love them dearly.
Good.
But yeah, the dynamics are definitely different for the middle
right.
and that last one.
And it's interesting. I don't have a ton of memories of my childhood. I just remember it as being hard, but yet I have some real cherish, like Christmases. My parents did everything they could. We didn't have much money, and they just did everything they could to make sure they were, fun, and we had presents, and I don't know, there was just some vivid things. Like I remember when I turned 6 years old at 10:03 p.m., I'd already had my birthday and my party, but I'd gone to bed. My parents woke me up because I was born at 10:03 p.m. And they woke me up at that same time to give me a baby tender love, which was a doll I wanted.
Oh, wow. I remember the baby tender loves.
Yeah.
I didn't have one. I just remember 'em.
And,
Are you sure about that?
and I
Yeah.
always thought that was so thoughtful and so special. And as time's gone on, I remember asking people through the years, well, what time of day were you born? And most people don't know. But I always knew I was born at 10:03 p.m. because of that. So my parents really tried hard. It was just a difficult time. I think we come to this earth the way we are. Like I remember, I was just a natural born leader. I remember in 5th, 4th grade getting called into the principal's office because some girlfriends of mine had bullied somebody on the playground. I wasn't involved at all. And Mr. Bates called me in and he's telling me what had happened and and I was like, but Mr. Bates, I wasn't there. Why are you calling me into the office? And he goes, well, you seem to be the leader of the pack. So I figure if I talk to you, you can help, set an example or help these girls not act like that. And I remember thinking vividly, I don't want to be the leader of the pack. Like, how did I get this job? And I remember in 7th grade thinking, I wish I could just move somewhere and just start all over and just be that timid, shy, quiet person, just everything I wasn't. And nobody would know me, so it was kind of interesting to have this natural, being popular. Like I have girls also, and they're grown now. But I remember going through school, them wanting to be popular. And I would say, all popular means, the definition is that everybody knows you. Doesn't necessarily mean everybody likes you.
Yeah.
And I said, I remember wishing I weren't that person, which I always thought was kind of interesting, but I just kind of came that way to this earth, just kind of a natural leader and But, I remember going to a church group, it's primary with the Latter-day Saint religion, and I remember taking like a handful of over-the-counter sleeping pills. I was thinking about this on my way over, just maybe 4 or 5, and knowing it, like I was going to potentially harm myself, but not really understanding like it was a true suicide attempt or something. But I remember going to primary and I was definitely sleepy and nothing turned out of it. But what that tells me is I was in a lot of pain, like I really was at a young age. And I think a lot of it had to do with our mother being sick and being afraid. Nobody talking to us, and just this kind of undercurrent that I could feel. And there was never talk about us getting good grades or doing our homework. We just did it. We all went to college. We all, got college degrees, but I don't ever remember, I just think there was this other thing kind of going on over here that we just tried really hard to take away from that stress by just behaving, I guess.
Yeah. And I have found with a lot of our guests that's happened. I mean, there's been a few that's come from not so good families.
Uh-huh.
Others who have come from really good families, like what you're saying, they don't ever remember any kind of like hardships, and their parents were always there for them and told them how much they loved them. But there was still something that was festering inside of them, not even realizing. I mean, I've gone back and looked at a lot of my childhood stuff, and I'm thinking, man, if I had the addiction type personality, I could have fallen in the shoes any one of our guests have fallen into. Easy.
Right.
Snap of a finger. Why, I don't know. Why I didn't. I mean, I still did substances. I drank. There for a long time. That was my weekend getaway. Doing cocaine and pounding the beers. I mean, that was my release just because of everything that was going on in my life at the time. But yeah, I could have fallen in really, really deep.
Yeah, it's taken me a lot of years to understand that the drinking and the drugging was my solution. It wasn't the problem, which is really hard to understand. There's probably people going to be listening to this to be like, what are you talking about? It's the drugs. Like, just quit doing the drugs and, things will get better, which is true. But for me, it was a solution. And when I found those, it literally saved my life at the same time it was killing it, taking or hurting my life.
Yeah,
So
it was the double-edged sword.
it really was, yeah. But, it's interesting. A lot of therapists through the years have wanted to talk about my childhood and my mother, and I'm just so protective of her because she truly was a earth angel, dealing with what she was dealing with. And we had her for so many years longer than we thought. But nevertheless, I was still without that important relationship at the level, like I see my girls, like I was involved so deeply when they both got married, I went and picked out my wedding dress by myself, you know what I mean? Just those are the kind of things that, and I didn't think anything of it at the time. It was just how it was, and I would come home to mom in bed and she'd, write the check or whatever. We just did the best that we could, but.
It's almost kind of like those times, and I don't know if it's happened to everybody, but there's times like I'll be doing dishes or doing something, all of a sudden my hand starts stinging. You look down, you're like, how the hell did I cut myself? You didn't feel it until later. And that's what that kind of reminds me of, is you don't realize the pain that you're going through, and then all of a sudden one day something starts stinging you, and you're going,
exactly.
I don't understand. Where is this coming from?
Yeah. And it wasn't, I wasn't hateful or about it with her. It's just different core beliefs. Like, I'm not a good cook. It's a known fact. I'm not a good cook. I try. But I hold myself to this standard that what a good cook is. Well, I was never taught how to cook. And my mother's a very good cook, but by the time I was old enough to teach me, she just wasn't in a place to be able to have the energy to teach. But yet I hold myself to this standard of, you're a bad person or you're a bad wife or mother because you weren't a good cook or homemaker or whatever the core beliefs are. So at the same time this is going on, this thing with my mom and that, you're developing these core beliefs that the world's teaching you, and it's I've done a lot of soul searching and work through it, and it just is what it is today. And I don't know if you saw that thing on Facebook. I know you're a Facebook person, but it said if you could take a red pill, it would mean you could go back and start life again.
I do remember seeing that, yes.
Yeah, you're 6 years old knowing what you know, or you could take the blue pill and get $10 million. And instantly I was like, oh, I'd take the red pill. Like, I'd give anything to go back and make right these different things. But then as the day went on, I was thinking to myself, well, crap. I'd go back, yes, taking everything I know for good, but I also learned a lot of stuff for bad. Like, I probably would have become a cocaine addict at age 8, and like, I wouldn't have graduated college or had married the man I did and had the girls, you know what I mean? So then I was like, wait a minute, I'll take the blue pill, $10 million, please. So regret's a funny thing, because there's been a lot of times I've thought, there's some hurts and harms and scars that still rear their head now and again. I'd do anything to be able to do differently, but yet, I don't know. There's a lot of things that I was protected from then, and I was naive from then, that now I'm not, and I would hate to have to do life again knowing all of that too, if that makes sense.
But
that does.
That's who's made you now. Right. I mean, all those steps has made you who you are today. Right. I mean, Charity's boyfriend and I were talking at lunch, and we were hitting that up a little bit, how so many of us were always looking into the future,
right,
instead of looking at just what's in front of us that exact time and that day. And when you go back and you look at a lot of the things that's happened in your life, I mean, there's a lot of things, I wish I could have changed, but also at the same time it's going, man, that's what shaped me,
Good point.
A lot of people believe, that we choose our life before we come here on this earth. It's like, this is what's going to happen to you, and you got to decide which direction that you're going to go. Right. Unfortunately, there are some that we lose, but there's also many of us that light bulb goes off. And, it took me of losing my job of 24 years to really do some soul searching and go, who am I, and who is it that I want to be? I thought I was a good person before, which I think I still was a fairly good person, but I wasn't the person that I think I was really meant to be. When I share stories with other people going, oh yeah, if you would have known me 14 years ago or 15 years ago, this is the type of person I was, and they were going, No way. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's who I, no way. And I'm like, oh no, you should have seen me in my 20s, man. Drop of a pin. I anger issues. Holy cow, I was putting my fist through walls and doors, and I was in the emergency center at least twice a month having slivers or stuff taken out of my hand because my temper was just,
Wow.
I mean, I only had a fuse of this big, you know, and just that's what I grew up around. And I thought when things didn't go your way, that's how you were supposed to act. And yeah, now I go back and look, and I'm like, that needed to happen to me.
Right.
You know, because now you're out helping so many people. Yeah.
It's interesting topic. I'm glad we're talking about this because our mutual friend Todd Sylvester on his podcast, he often asks each person, would you change anything? And like inevitably, without even a pause, people will say no.
Yeah.
Because of what you're talking about, who you are today. And I want so bad to not have a pause and say, I wouldn't change a thing. But to me, it's a difficult thing to answer because it's at the expense of a lot of people's hurt, particularly my girls.
Yeah.
And I just can't say, oh, I wouldn't change a thing it's hard for me to accept that but, you know, I've had one of my daughters actually let me off the hook and, you know, tell me, Mom, I'm so grateful for the person I am today. And it wouldn't have been that way had you not been a screw up at some extent. That's what I heard, the story I told myself. But anyway, so it's I do hear what you're saying and I do believe what you're saying, but sometimes my head and heart don't connect completely because it's at the expense of some of others.
Now, if you take, and I'm just throwing this out there, if you take a positive out of that, you taught them something still.
Oh, for sure.
You know, you taught them stay away from freaking drugs and alcohol because
Exactly.
this is how you can end up treating people and hurting family
Right.
members, hurting people
Right.
that you love, you know. And so I would have to, and again, this is just how I'm looking at it, not saying I'm trying to get you to look at the same way, but the strength that you put into them
Right.
because of what you went through, you know. And
No,
now
that's a good
they
point.
get to see the woman that you are now, the person that you are now. It
Which
wasn't easy. Go ahead, Trudy.
continues to help them, ironically.
Yeah.
You know, that's been, I really relate to this and my heart goes out to you because I feel your struggle with that because one of my struggles was with my son. Like, I put you through this. I put you through this horrendous emotional roller coaster. I didn't show him how you're supposed to show up and deal with your stuff and handle your emotions. I wasn't, you know, it was erratic. And I was like, man, that had to have been terrifying at times.
Right.
I had so much shame and so much regret for that. But at the same time, he was like, Mom, dude, you are great. He was like, and I learned this from you. And I was like, wait, what?
Right.
You know, so I hear you because you have that pause. Because you're like, yeah, but I feel like I screwed him up.
Yeah,
You know? It's my fault.
Yeah, my growth was at the expense of them. But I will say, like, breaking the cycle, getting to talk about things that just weren't talked about. Like, me and my girls today,
Yeah.
we're so solid, and I love them just so much. And, you know, Janan and I will sometimes talk about, we say a prayer, you know, God, thank you so much for what you've given me, but thank you so much for not giving me what I deserve all the time. Because if, you know, I look pretty bad on paper.
Yeah.
But I can explain.
But I can
That's the
explain.
name of my memoir. But I can explain.
I love it. That's really good.
Because if you looked at me, particularly now, I'm this far in life, thank heavens, but it just doesn't look so great on paper sometimes. So,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't trade that for anything. And so, anyway, it's just an interesting question to ponder.
It is.
But I do believe I've been blessed with, we talk about this too, a specific skill set where I have a particular, I can be empathetic and sympathetic to someone where maybe others can't because they haven't been through it. So, you know, I will be forever grateful for all of the things that I've been blessed with as a result of my choices.
Well, I got to say that I'm very grateful for you.
Yeah.
See, I'm tearing up
I was
already
gonna
thinking
say.
about it.
I just used the last tissue too.
Yeah, we'll have to
Get a new tissue
when we go for commercial break. I'll grab us some toilet paper or something to bring over here. Oh, Charity's
Listen, I
reaching.
got us.
Charity's got it.
Thank you.
But I'm very grateful for you, Trish, because you were around when Janann was in the depths of her addiction, and you saw what she was going through and the pain and the hurt, and you saw at times things that I was going through, and there was times I even called you up going, man, I don't even know what the flip to do. I'm so lost and so pissed at the same time.
Right.
So I'm grateful for you that you, and maybe this sounds weird, but I'm grateful that you've gone through what you've gone through, because here you are on the other side and you've been there for a long time now, but you've been on the addiction side. So you're understanding, what we're both going through. And some of the things that you told me or mentioned to me hit very deep in my heart, and it helped me grow. And there's a lot of things that, Janann has gone through where, I don't know how many times, she'll be going through some issues or whatever, and then I'll always ask her, how you doing? Are you doing all right? Now, and she's like, yeah, I spoke with Trish. And it's like, okay, because you can see the change. So you have a way of having that connection and the knowledge behind it, to help that light bulb go off, because sometimes that's what we need. Sometimes, it's like with computers, if it's not working, we unplug it and plug it back in to try to get it. It's almost like what some people do with us. They get us to unplug things and then plug it back in, and we start looking things in a different way.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
I just want to
So
say
sweet.
thank you,
So
for
sweet.
the stuff that you've done to help us. But let's stop for a quick commercial break, and
Okay.
and when we come back, if you're okay with it, let's just talk a little bit more, because you were a late bloomer when it
Yes.
come to addiction, right? A lot of people we've
Yes,
had on
I
our show
was.
started at like age 12 or 13 or 10 or
Yeah.
whatever, but you started later in your life, and we don't have a lot of people that come on the show that say, oh yeah, at age 30 something I became an addict,
No.
or
It's
whatever.
basically
but-
I had my life together, and then it's usually my life
Yeah,
was awful, and
exactly.
then I pulled it together, and I was the exact opposite.
You
So
were the
it's
opposite.
definitely a unique piece. So
Okay,
I'm,
well,
I'm happy to share about that.
Well, let's touch base. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Have you ever been in a car accident? Do you know what to do after being in a car accident? Are the insurance companies going to take care of you? Hi, I'm attorney Rick Heaton with the Law Office of Bobby Udall. I will help you through the process and answer all of these questions. I give every single client my cell phone so they can talk to me whenever they need. Let me deal with the insurance company so you can focus on getting better from your injuries. Call me at 385-330-0226. Again, my cell phone number, 385-330-0226. Don't call the insurance company first. Call attorney Rick Heaton at 385-330-0226.
This is Gregory, owner of Lift Up Concrete, proudly serving the Wasatch Front for the last 12 years, lifting sunken flatwork for both residential and commercial applications. Only fully trained professionals lifting concrete at your residence with the same quality of material and method used at every commercial job we ever do. Don't replace it, lift it. liftupconcrete.net, 801-792-4535. Contact us at liftupconcrete.net, or if you're looking for a complimentary quote, 801-792-4535. Again, 801-792-4535. Again, this is Gregory, Lift Up Concrete Lifting.
Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Hey everyone, welcome back to The Other Side of Addiction. I'm Al Richard, your host, and we have Charity here with us again. Charity, thank you again so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Our blessings and our thoughts go out to JD. He's got a lot going on in his life right now. So we send our prayers to him and his family. He lost his grandma about a week ago, and I know what that's like. Our blessings go out to him. And again, this episode is brought to you by Resilience Talk Network. So, Brad, thank you for everything that you do. We appreciate and love you very much. So, Tricia, oh my gosh, this has been the first half of the show was really good, but we were talking right before we went to the commercial break about you being the late bloomer. So I don't think I'm mistaken, but I think you're the first guest we've had on our show. Like you said, most people go through all this crap and then come out on the other end. Right. You were on top of the world and then kind of decided to plummet off of that.
But I can explain.
Okay, but I can explain. I love it.
Again, just kind of going back to if you're born with this or not, we could debate that all day. For me, I really feel like I came to this earth hardwired a certain way. And I had developed coping skills in such a way, that served me for a while. I think that our assets can often be our defects of character and vice versa. And so that fierce independence that I developed at such a young age, I just was successful as far as society goes. I married my high school sweetheart. I waited for him. He served a Mormon mission, and we dated a long time. Like, by the time he asked me to marry him, just to give you an example, I came home and woke my mom up and said, "Mom, Bart asked me to marry him," and she didn't even open her eyes. She said, "It's about time." So that's how that went. And
wow.
We got married and we moved to Salt Lake City. So that's how we got here. We were, again, from Pocatello, but we came to Salt Lake, and he was going to go to school here. And we have two beautiful daughters who are now both grown and married. And my oldest daughter has 4 kids, so have 4 grandkids and love them all so much. But Bart and I... Oh, shoot, I said his name. I guess that's okay. No last name. But anyway, we got married in what the LDS faith believes it was a temple marriage. Mm-hmm. And I used to talk in AA meetings about being married in the big house and that it didn't work out. And half of the room thought I meant prison.
Oh, wow.
And the other half knew I meant the temples. So
yeah.
I thought that was always kind of funny. But to me, I felt like I was really married, not just civilly married. It was just a core belief I had been raised with. And so when our marriage didn't work out, we just kind of were faced with some obstacles that we didn't have the tools to walk through. And it fell apart, and I so much guilt and shame around that, so much, because again, nobody gets divorced in my family. My parents were married 60 years. Both my grandparents made it to 65 years before, they passed away. I can think of maybe one cousin that got divorced, like seriously, through my entire, history. So I was so ashamed of that. And so when I did get divorced, and I was getting divorced for what didn't seem like a good reason, it was that I wasn't happy and that I was hurting all these people's lives to maybe take a chance at happiness. So it seemed really selfish.
It's one of those grass is greener on the other side of the fence.
And I mean, I
right?
just had so much, and I worked, I'm a nurse, and I'd worked for these, high dollar surgeons, that lots of parties and lots of partying. And I will never forget going on, it was a convention, and I just went right for the booze. Now, mind you, I had drank a handful of times, like from the time I was 13 to 30. I mean, less than 5 times. My very first time drinking, I was in 9th grade. I stole a bunch of liquor, from my parents' cabinet, and it clears, browns, creams, all mixed together. And it was nasty. And anyway, I drank it with my girlfriend. This is just a super quick story, but I remember the next day we got in trouble and we got caught. Like, everything that can happen in that first time happened. Like, you just can't believe it. And I remember waking up the next day thinking, wow, that was fun. Next time I do it, I need to do it with control. And that was just kind of, but then again, I got involved in the religion piece. My parents weren't active at that time, so I was like the less active church project of the neighborhood. And so for whatever reason, I just kind of followed the religious friends, and that was the path I chose. So I knew I shouldn't do it because of the religion piece, but once I had failed horribly in the religion, which is the way I saw it, because the marriage had failed, that's where I turned. And it was on. So I was 30 when I started drinking. I was 32 when I added cocaine, and I was 34 when I went to treatment. So it went, yeah.
Wow, that's a quick 4 years of.
Yep.
That was like a whirlwind.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. So,
wow.
And I think, through all of that stuff, it was, and I try to explain this to people, it just gave me relief from between my ears in a way that I hadn't ever been able to find before. I had tried with exercise, I had tried with men, shopping, you know what I mean, whatever. But when that alcohol hit, and I drank it. I mean, that's why I know I am an alcoholic, because for years people would be like, "You're not an alcoholic." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I am." And they'd say, "Well, no, my dad's an alcoholic and you look nothing like him." And there was a little part of me thinking, maybe they're right. But I've learned that it's not quantity per se, and it's not how many years you did. Like, I never ever had, DTs. I was never physically addicted, but when I drank, I couldn't control how much I drank. And if I ever truly wanted to completely stop, once I had started, I couldn't do it. And I think those are the two things that our big book, or the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, talks about, define you as somebody with this condition or disease, whatever you want to call it. So, and I think the cocaine piece, I'd always struggled for years with body image. I had physically matured super quick. I was like this size in 7th grade, maybe 20 pounds lighter, but I was a full-grown woman by the time I was 7, and I didn't know how to handle that. And I was very athletic, very muscular, like made the varsity basketball team when I was a sophomore, and I just didn't know what to do with that. And I remember quitting the basketball team and becoming a cheerleader, because I just didn't like being so big and muscular and being told I looked fit or this or that. And, I've talked to my parents about it. If I would have known really what was going on, instead of just making it about I didn't like the coach, I would have played sports, which is what I'd love to do. But back then, it was hard to be a feminine athlete like you see today, which I just love. You were either this or that, and I just didn't.
The labels. We were talking about that at lunch. Shane and I was talking about the labels
labels
that get put on us at a very young age.
Yeah. And so a lot of this stuff was going on. And so, again, with this kind of high society crowd I was rolling with, the cocaine, and I remember thinking, before I'd even tried it, my heart was racing. And I was like, I wonder how long before this takes me down. Because I knew. I had heard the stories. I mean, it wasn't that I was raised right. Like, I saw the movies and the stories and but I knew I was going to love it, and I couldn't wait to try it. And I knew it was going to take me down and destroy me, and I didn't care. And I think that is so powerful. I remember watching Miami Vice back when I was a church-going
That
girl.
was a good series. Yeah.
And they would make these drug busts, like these huge kilos of cocaine,
Yeah.
and my heart would just race.
Be like, oh, what I could do with that,
Exactly.
right? Yeah.
And I didn't know anybody that used it. I wasn't ever around it, but that way I was hardwired, I just was drawn to that. And so when the drugs were introduced, and then you didn't eat, and then you lost weight and you got skinny, like the euphoria came in just being relieved of my mental chatter.
Yeah.
You know, and as time went on, and the alcohol, you know, that time frame of getting relief got less and less and less, to the point it didn't work anymore. But that's what I was always trying to chase, I think. I mean, to this day I don't understand, like, drinking a beer. Like, why would you ever do that? Why? Like, to me it was about I wanted to change the way I felt, and I could do that in less than 5 minutes.
And that's even crazy what you said, you know, like, how can you just, like, drink a beer?
Right.
You know, because I used to be that way, to where, you know, there's sometimes Jeanette and I would go out to dinner and I'd order a beer.
Right.
And,
Or why?
And
like-
I'd just be okay with it. You know,
Yeah.
after that, I wouldn't have any more.
Right.
And then when it got to where on the weekends, you know, for me to mask the Band-Aids of everything that was going on in my life, yeah, the one beer didn't stop at one beer. You know,
Right.
before I knew it, a 12-pack was gone, and I was opening up another 12-pack. you
Wow.
know?
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, and just, you know, calling my dealer every Friday and making sure I had enough for Friday and Saturday, and
Right.
yeah.
And being a late starter has kind of brought with it its own circumstances of feeling guilty. Because it's one thing if you were raised, like you said, with hardship and, you know, it's, of course, that's what you're going to go to. But I had been raised right, you know, with a good family that loved me. I had just solid, you know, I'm a nurse, a college graduate. I had this family. Like, I just had all this stuff, which just goes to show you, you know, it's an inside job. That all those
Yes.
things are wonderful and I love it. But
Yep.
if this work isn't right, like, and I think when that marriage ended and it was just like, it was on. And one of my biggest fears, I went to treatment, like I said, at 34, I was so afraid I wouldn't qualify. Because in my mind, what an alcoholic was that Meg Ryan character, When a Man Loves a Woman.
Yeah, that's one
You
of
know,
Jeanette's favorite
Yeah,
movies.
hiding bottles and all that stuff. She had 2 little girls, and I was like, I just felt like I was bad and needed to learn how to be good. I had no clue that I suffered with an illness and there was a solution. You know what I mean? Even my own family, like, I got sent to this treatment center up in Newberg, Oregon. It's about 30 miles southwest of Portland. It's where they send professionals, healthcare professionals, attorneys, pharmacists, and because
Wow.
my family was thinking, I mean, today I know a drunk's a drunk, but my family was thinking if I was with more of my kind or my people, that maybe I would, you know, do better. But the thing that was interesting about this place was every single person that worked there was in recovery, from the CEO, Dr. Skipper, down to the maintenance guy. And that is the piece that resonated and spoke to me, is because when they shared, because they got it, because they had it, and they shared their experience, strength, and hope with me. And I listened to that. I mean, for years I tried to explain to bishops, to therapists, to, you know, counselors what it was like to live between my ears, and they just looked mortified. You know what I mean? And but now,
Right.
like, stories
Charity gets it.
yeah, like stories I wouldn't tell people that I would have taken to my grave, I'm hearing left and right, and people are sharing what it used to be like, but what happened, and I was like, wow. Like,
Yeah.
it was, I loved recovery the second I was introduced to it.
See, and that's new to me too, because, and, well, not all our guests talk about when they went into recovery that they liked it or they didn't like it. You know, some said, I just wasn't ready.
Right.
You know, and I don't know how many times, you know, Jeanette was going, I know she went to like 7 of them, and there's times you and I would talk and you would say the same thing. She's not ready. She thinks she is, but
Right.
she's not ready. But I know Jeanette would say, if, you know, she went to a certain place and I'd say, so how is it? And she's like, oh, it's okay. Or I really like being here, but never in the way that you said it, you know?
Right.
And I think this is the first time I've heard someone say it that way.
Right. Well, the thing is, so, you know, I go to this place, I find out what I am, what I have. Now I'm accountable, right? Before it was just, well, you drink too if you had my life, because I'm depressed. My marriage didn't work out. This happened to me, and da-da-da. I remember going to uni and saying, you know, I'm depressed, therefore I drink. And it wasn't until I was leaving that facility, they were like, hey, your intake blood, you had cocaine in it. And I was like, did I?
Really? I can explain.
Yes, but I can explain. Well, I must have been standing next to somebody. Like, I remember thinking, oh, crap, I've been found out. As much as this has helped, I will never come back here, because I wasn't willing to come clean with that. I was willing. But that was when the counselor said to me, you think you're depressed, therefore you drink. She goes, but if you would get honest with your drinking and your drugging, I bet your depression would get better. And I'm not saying that those things aren't real and they exist, but I am here to say what she said for me proved to be true. That I suffered from a spiritual malady, you know, depression that existed way before.
Yeah.
You know, all of this. And it had nothing to do with religion. It took me a long time to understand the differences between those two, because I'm a very spiritual person. But when I had failed so horribly with the religious attempt, you know, with the, you know, I just thought, I guess I'm not a spiritual person.
Yeah.
But I have learned.
Yeah, there's a difference between the two, and it took me some time
Right.
to figure that out as
Right.
well.
I will say, when I first got sober, I remember somebody, hearing something that your first chance is your best chance, which made sense to me. So, you know, I stayed sober for quite a while, from being 34, but then I did have some relapses in there. And so there again, here I am, who gets it and then doesn't get it, which is how my whole journey has been, right? Backwards. Because a lot of people come into the rooms and just screw up, and then finally get it. That's typically what you see. But I had almost 10 years sober and then started using again. And that's a real scary place to be, where you're accountable, you know what you have, you're doing all the things, you're sponsoring, you're in the rooms, and you want to die. And that's when I learned about the second surrender in recovery. I don't know if you've heard that term before.
I have not.
But there's a lot of people that off themselves while they're in recovery, because they hit this point where they want to die, but they know that they can't drink or drug, but yet they've got this something they're suffering with. And so what did I do? I drank, because I didn't want to die. I was too scared to live, too scared to die. And so that's a lot what my relapse dance came. But I remember thinking, well, I'm screwed, because my first chance is my best chance, and now I'm on my fourth or fifth or whatever. You know, talk about Janan. Finally had this old timer say, Trish, do you know what chance is your best chance that you have to get sober? And I said, no, tell me. You know, I got my pen. He goes, the one you're on, the chance you're on. Like, just no more, no less. And I've really thought about that through the years. The best chance you have at staying sober is the chance that you're on. So never give up, I guess, is the point of that.
That makes a lot of sense, because I think we were even talking about it on the first show. I think it was the first show, but that celebration, you know, I talked about a guy who's been on our show that spoke about his 2-decade-long battle with pornography. And he was on a business trip and pulled up to this bridge, and he's like, I'm just going to jump, because I cannot beat this thing. No matter how hard I try, I just cannot beat it. It has such a hold of me. And he said, as, you know, he's praying, you know, and all of a sudden this thought popped into his head that, wait a minute, I went 5 days. Without looking at pornography. Then he started thinking, gosh, one time I went 8 days, or however many days it was. And he said, that day, that night, when he was thinking about killing himself, it popped into his head, and he says he knows that was God or the Spirit talking to him, that instead of putting himself down for always failing, he needed to start celebrating every single day that he didn't look at porn.
Wow.
And so he started using that in his sobriety.
I love it.
You know, going, okay, I went 5 days and then I went back, but you know what? I'm going to celebrate those 5 days because I've not gone 5 days before.
No,
So it just kept stepping.
I remember a young gal telling me once, because somebody had relapsed. We were in an AA meeting. They had like 20 years, and they'd relapsed, and there was this you could hear this gasp, like the room gasped. And she leaned over to me and she said, I don't know why people gasp when people like me do this thing. She goes, I think we should be gasping if you get 24 hours not drinking or drugging. And I thought, man, that's so true. If you have what I suffer from, which I believe is described in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, the fact that you get 5 or 8 days of not trying to alter how you feel.
I like that.
I think it's amazing, instead, because I don't think we ever, what's better? Like I was talking to my sponsor the other day about what does that even mean? You know what I mean? Like, I think when you get years behind you and you start thinking, you reach a tough patch, you're afraid to be honest about it because you should be more better. When really it's just this fluid process, right? And I think that's what my second surrender was about, which I want to share with you just the rest of that story, because the last time I drank was very similar to Janan's in the sense that I knew I was done. It wasn't my worst bottom. I just got up one morning and decided to take a drink at 7 a.m. because I needed to run on the treadmill before I went to my granddaughter's birthday party. Now, who would ever in their mind putting a Bloody Mary together on the treadmill at Vasa, 7 a.m., think that's a good idea? But in my mind, it was just, I got to go run yet again. Because if I don't run, I know I'm going to have this squirrel in my head telling me I'm this, I'm that. And so I started drinking, and I drank that one day, and I literally burned my life to the ground in like 6 hours, right? And the thing that was so crazy to me is I didn't think anybody knew. Like, I've heard a lot about the delusion that we get, how delusional we get, but everybody knew. So the crowd that I would want to look the best for, my ex-husband, my daughter, her in-laws, I'm showing up this way. And somebody recorded us singing happy birthday to my granddaughter, was 2 at the time. And I listened to it one time, and then I deleted it because it was so like thick tongue, slurry. I could not believe. And the next day was Mother's Day. And I remember playing the God game. I remember telling you this story. I hadn't talked to my sponsor in a few months. And when I did call her, typically I got her voicemail. And she would call me back. But I remember thinking, I'm getting all these texts telling me what a great mother I am. And here I am, I've drank, again, after a period of sobriety. And not only drank, but showed up at my daughter's daughter. Like, it's one thing to screw up your kid's life, but then your kid's kid. Like, it was a whole nother level, I guess. Anyway, I called my sponsor. And the God game was, if she answers, I am once and for all conceding to my innermost self that this is who I am, what I have, and I'm just going to do it her way. Or if she doesn't answer, I seriously was talking about, I gotta kill myself. Like, I don't know how and why, but I just cannot do this another day. I can't hurt any more people or myself. And damn it if she didn't answer the phone. And to this day, she's like, I'm so glad I answered that phone call.
No kidding.
But I remember, like I said, it wasn't my worst. But I knew I was done. And from that point on, I've just had solid sobriety since. And Janan was one of my first sponsees after that. And I had thought, because there was a time during that 10 years, I sponsored a lot of women. Like, I did the deal, right? And when I relapsed, boy, talk about a humbling, tough situation to go to all those beautiful women and say, I've relapsed and I can't
be your sponsor anymore.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure I made it so much more dramatic, but it was a really difficult thing to come back from, to the point that I thought, I'll never do this again, ever. It's too much pressure and, And then I will never forget Janan asking me to sponsor her. And I literally was like, me? Like, why? But she'd heard me speak. Yeah. And I remember thinking, Tricia, just be open. Like, this is how this deal works. She's going to help you as much as you help her. And then from that point on, I've gotten others. But I never thought I would be able to do it again after falling off so hard.
I think that's God pulling people together, because I remember the day that she found you, because she came home and she goes, I found a sponsor. And she told me she just knew the moment you got up and started speaking.
Right.
She said she just felt it. She's like, that's who I want to be my sponsor. You know, and of course, it's been on and off. You know, when she went through the depths, you finally said, look, if you're not going to do what I ask you, I can't do this anymore either, because it's jeopardizing you.
Right.
You know.
Well, there's that piece, and then what I do, because it really is no pressure. You just share with someone what works for you. And it wasn't working for her, what I was sharing.
Yeah.
So it was one of these, like, you need to find somebody that you can follow what they do.
Yeah.
You know, you deserve to be alive and to be sober. So it's kind of knowing when to say that and when
Not
not
to.
to.
One thing I want to ask, and this has come up a few times. Matter of fact, last week we were talking about whether addiction and alcoholism is a disease or not a disease. Because some people look at it as a disease.
Right.
Some people don't look at it as a disease. And so Janan and TJ and myself, we kind of had this special episode where we just discussed things.
Right.
But another one is the relapse. So I know there's a rehab, and I won't throw their name out there because, and again, it's really started questioning, and all these wheels started turning in my head with what this gentleman said. But you know, he believes that other rehabs that talk about you're going to relapse, they tell you when you come in, you plan on relapse, and
Right.
his thoughts and feelings are that they're already setting them up to fail by saying that. And I'm like, well, to me that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it really does.
Right.
Because his program, they don't believe, you know, you're here to get better. There ain't no freaking relapse bullshit here at all. You're either going to do it or you don't. And if you're not going to do it, get the hell out.
Right.
You don't belong here. And I thought that was really cool as well. So that's another thing as far as me being on the other side. Where is it? Now, sometimes that works for people, certain people. Other times it wouldn't work. So I know that wouldn't work for Jeanette.
Right.
I mean, if she was at that place and they said that to her, she probably would have jumped up, packed her bags, and frickin' just left. But
Yeah.
there's people that I've talked to, or they're like, that was the best thing for me.
Right. Well, this is how I'll explain, because I'm a nurse, so the medical world makes a lot of sense to me. But I think there's more than one way to do this still. And
There you
I
go.
think it's a matter of who's left. And that took me a long time to understand that. And I think that if you treated somebody with diabetes, they may do what they're supposed to do and then never have to go to insulin, never ever have a problem. You might give somebody the same exact treatment and it works for a while, and then maybe they don't do the same thing that patient A did, and then guess what? They have to go to insulin. And it's just kind of this fluid process. And guess what? Even with the glucose monitor, whatever, it hasn't really helped their diabetes. And then, I don't know. I just don't think there's this, it's
The
going to
magic
yeah.
one. So that's how I've come to look at it, whether it's a disease or not a disease, and also that way, you know, that you're going to relapse or you're not going to
Right.
relapse.
And
I
I
think
will-
it's
and
the
I will-
individual.
Right, and I will tell you this, because my husband's in recovery. He's been sober a long time. I met him in recovery, and he went to treatment when he was in high school, and it didn't take. So he put the booze down when he was 26, and he's been sober ever since. But he had drank like a long time. You know, by the time I got to recovery, like I got forced into recovery because of my nursing board. And I just don't think I was done. You know what I mean? I knew logically I should get sober, and I knew not doing drugs was good. But, you know, I beat myself up a long time about this very thing. But I will tell you this, of my patients that have terminal illnesses, if I went to them and said, there is a solution, you will be not only 100% better, but you'll be better than you were if you'll just do a few things. Call a sponsor, go to meetings, find a higher power, find it, you know what I mean? 100%, every one of those person is going to do it.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
with drugs, addicts, and alcoholics, and I'm speaking to myself, you give them the same package, like you will get not only your life back, it'll be better than it was. You know what I mean? Like it's 100% guarantee. And how many people don't take it, because ultimately, if you keep using, you're going to have a life of jails, institutions, or death, which to me is terminal.
Yeah.
So call it what you want, a disease or not. I know for me, I know what I am. I know how I came to this earth. And that's just all I need to know. I stay on this side of the street and keep it clean, but I know there's a lot of debate about it, and I know. But to me, who cares? Like, find what works.
Find what works. Yeah, that's how I look at it too. We're going to stop for another quick commercial break, but when we come back, I think touch base on that just a little bit more. I think whatever works for the person works. So, guys, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Good morning, this is Leticia with Computer Hospital. We are your computer repair experts for both PC and Mac. We are your community resource for all of your computer repair needs. What makes us different is that we want to fix your computer. We also do free diagnostics. We charge a flat rate labor, which means that you won't pay by the hour. All of our computer repair is done in-house with a fast turnaround time, and same-day service is also available. Feel free to stop by anytime without an appointment. We're located in Sandy at 8721 South State Street. Again, that's 8721 South State Street. Or call us at 801-987-3993. Again, that's 801-987-3993. This is Leticia with Computer Hospital, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Hello there, this is Brad Neufeld with the Resilience Talk Network, and I would like to introduce to you Taffytown, one of our newest sponsors. Let me introduce you to Derek.
Hi, I'm Derek from Taffytown. We're proud sponsors of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Taffytown is a family-owned and operated business still operating in the Salt Lake City area for over 100 years. We manufacture some of America's best saltwater taffy.
What makes Taffytown stand out from all of the others?
We have a unique recipe, a whipped-style recipe that incorporates egg whites, evaporated milk, real sea salt. It's a unique product that is flavorful, melts in your mouth, and the best part is we probably have a flavor for anyone's liking, a flavor for any reason, for any season. We have unique flavors like chicken and waffles, maple bacon, frosted cupcake. New this year was a pineapple ghost pepper flavor.
That's awesome. Where can people find out more about Taffytown and all of its products?
You can check all of this stuff out. All of our products are available for sale on taffytown.com. We ship for free from our website, so all of our pricing on there is shipping included. Oftentimes we offer special promotions and discounts to our loyal customers, so do be sure to sign up for an account. And we look forward to seeing what we can do to make you smile with our taffy.
Where are you located?
We are currently located at 9813 South Prosperity Road in West Jordan, Utah, just at the foothills of the Copper Canyon Mine.
Derek, taffy has always been a great gift to give. What are some of the creative ways Taffytown can help say thank you to others?
Yeah, if you're looking for gift ideas, whether to say thank you to friends or family, or maybe to your clients after such a difficult or successful year that you've had, you could look no further than to get a gift idea from taffytown.com. We offer pre-packaged gift boxes that say that it's saltwater taffy from the city of the Great Salt Lake, and it tells a little bit about the history of our community and making candy for so long. You can also do customized gifts to pick out just the right flavors or colors of candy for that special someone and deliver even a personalized message in that box to them. So please feel free to check out taffytown.com for any gift ideas this season.
Thank you so much, Derek. Please visit taffytown.com, that's taffytown.com, to find out more about the products and services that Taffytown offers. You won't be disappointed.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Other Side of Addiction. Again, this episode is brought to you by Resilience Talk Network. Thank you, Brad, for everything that you do. We love and appreciate you, buddy. My gosh, what an awesome show. I just like where this whole thing has gone. You know, how you talked about family and, you know, and just how things kind of progressed with you into what you said 30 before you actually started drugging and partying and stuff like that. And right before we broke for the commercial, you know, we were talking about whether it's a disease or not a disease. You know, it's I believe, like what you do, Trish, that it's whatever works for the person, you know, because I know people who have gone to Al-Anon to get the support that they need. And they've talked very highly of it. It's like, my gosh, it helped me. It was such a lifesaver for me. Somebody like me, after third meeting, I mean, I don't even know if Janan remembers, but she walked out of an AA. I walked out of an Al-Anon. When we got in the car, I said, I will never show my freaking face here again. I am done. You know, I will not go to another one of these meetings.
Yeah.
It just wasn't a fit for me.
Right. No.
And I'm not knocking it. It just wasn't a fit for me.
Yeah.
And I think with people looking at it as a disease, is it not a disease? Or it's a choice? No, it's not a choice. You know, plan on relapsing? No, you're not going to plan on relapsing. It's just whatever that individual is, because we're so all unique.
Right.
You know, we don't have the same fingerprint. So
Right. Exactly.
just because what I went through and what I've done worked for me, it's like I was asked that as a guest on a podcast yesterday. You know, the lady asked me, so what worked for me that I could share with the audience hoping to help someone else? And I'm like, well, I don't know if what I'm going to share will help somebody else. All I know is this is what I had to do to help get me through what I needed to get through. Take and leave whatever you want, because I think you have to find your own stones to step on, right?
Yep, I agree.
Yeah. So
Well said.
tell us a little bit more. So you got sober. You fell in love with rehab. You said the first time that you walked in, and that had to be a huge plus.
Yep. No, I did. It was, so I got sent to a place, I think I mentioned Springbrook. It was for professionals. So there were a lot of healthcare professionals there. And I mean, like I said before, a drunk is a drunk. I understand that today, but I will say healthcare professionals do have some unique things to deal with. One being anonymity is a very important piece. Like, you know, I've gone to meetings with airline pilots or surgeons who were smoking crack cocaine in the parking lot prior to doing surgery, who are now sober and clean. But, you know, if that got out that this was them 20 years ago, it could, I guess, destroy their entire career. So there's, you know, different elements of that. But I also think when I was in this treatment center, again, I had no idea what I suffered with, disease or not. Like, I mean, I started learning about it, and it just was, like I said, I didn't think I was going to qualify. And so I was so grateful that I did qualify. I earned my seat, and now today I try to keep my seat. You know what I mean? And that's really, not much more to it than that. But it was a 90-day program. I went for 120 days because I got in trouble fraternizing.
Fraternizing.
Do you know what that means? Yeah. So it was boys and girls. Now, mind you, we're grown-ass adults. And I found the sickest, Joe, and his name was Joe. And, we started kind of doing this thing. And there were a few other couples that, you've got this treatment center with people that are, addicts on all levels. Anyway, they call this big meeting. This is a great story. I can't believe I'm telling on air, but they call this big meeting with all of the clients. There's like 80 of us, and the CEO starts out and he names off the individuals who are suspected of fraternizing, and he calls 2 or 3 different couples out. And I was the first one. He said, it kind of reminded me of the Bill Clinton, did you or did you not have relations? And
I did not.
And I remember thinking right then and there, I will die before I am honest about this. I've heard about this bridge in Portland that my roommates told me about. I'm going to go there and jump off. I literally had all these thoughts. And what happened was, they call it a jumping off place or a death walk. I said the truth. And I said, yes, I owned it. And the other 5 people all said no.
Wow.
The person I was with got outed because I said yes, but all the others had said, oh no, it was just, and nothing happened to them. And from that point on in this treatment center, I literally was the scarlet letter person. Like, I would come in and we'd have these meetings where you'd call each other out on different behavior, and they'd be like, Tricia was sitting too close to the guy in our mixed nuts meeting, which was the mixed men and women. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, like I was the designated mess up. But what that taught me was how to stay sober, you have to have a level of honesty that you've never had before, and you may never have again. And you may not even have it with your own spouse. But I have a sponsor that I have that level of honesty with. And so, I did that treatment center and had that experience, which typically when I got to treatment, my drugs of choice were, the drug, but there was also a particular guy, which is like the sickest as they come. And I needed to work on that. Why I kept, and you do the steps in recovery. And one of the things you unveil is not so much how bad you are and the bad things about you, but you just identify behaviors and characteristics about yourself, why you keep putting yourself in these situations where you let yourself be objectified. I mean, that was such a principle to learn, that in every problem relationship I had a part in it. I mean, that's super humbling, because if I'm treated poorly or I'm abused, I didn't do anything wrong. Well, yeah, Trish, you're accepting that in your life. You're attracting those kind of people in your life. And that was a real turning point for me to learn a lot of those principles in this treatment center. So I just fell in love with it. I loved everything about it. We got to go to AAA meetings. I got reintroduced to spirituality while I was in there. I mean, just tears of joy. It was awesome. And I think the struggle came for me. Why didn't I stay sober? I think because it's something you have to deal with every day and nurture. And I just, before it was, I got sober to have all these things. And then I got remarried and I got my life back and a great job and And pretty soon I couldn't balance both things. I was doing so much recovery and all this. And pretty soon somebody told me, well, this is what you got sober for, to do all this stuff. So what did I do? Like a good addict, I just gave everything up. Not like tried to find a balance between. I just said, thanks, don't need you anymore. So then when trouble happened, as it does in life, I fell back on my laurels and I went back to what I knew how to do. And that was looking for the relief in all the wrong places. And then there was a whole new level of shame and guilt, because like I said, the first go around, I didn't know better. But now I knew better. I remember checking in as a newcomer at an AA meeting, and this guy saying, welcome back. And I was like, you effer, I haven't gone anywhere. I've sat next to you for the last year. And,
Oh, wow.
he was just like, welcome back, as if, I had been gone and I came back. But no, I was in the room doing the deal. But what I learned through that experience was the steps I was mistaking for the power, because lack of power is our dilemma.
Yeah.
And what the steps are there for, as far as I'm concerned, is helping you plug into the power that's so readily available to you. It isn't the power. And so I was doing all the stuff, like you could just check off all the boxes, except for the one thing, and that was allowing the power to help me. So it'd be like, dear God, help me do this. Oh, and by the way, I throw up the list. This is how you need to do it.
Yeah.
So I talk the talk a lot, but to walk the walk, particularly when the rubber meets the road, is hard.
I can imagine.
It is hard.
For any of us, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, let go, let God. Well, then I just lost my job today. Oh, crap. You know what I mean? Like, I just get spinning. It's hard to trust that this is exactly how it's supposed to be at this time, or I can't find a job, or I can't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
The process.
yeah.
It's again like what Shane and I was talking at lunch, is we're too busy looking
Right.
ahead instead of what's in front of us. I don't know if I've shared this story on the show or not, but the job that I had out at the manufacturing plant, it was very stressful for me. I was over packaging lines, I was over property maintenance, I was over housekeeping, I was over the parts room, and liquid department. Things were changing in the liquid department so fast. We would just get one project done and another project was on top of it. And about the time you got that done, the one that you had first done now was changing. And it was just on and on. And I'm doing what I need to do in management, and I'm following the rules, and I'm having to discipline mechanics. I've had mechanics quit on me. I'd come home and I'd have little cartoons of my name with the guy with the axe, and the other guy on the chopping block was the mechanic that just got fired or just left, and so having my release on my Friday and Saturday, that was my time to put the Band-Aid on me. Poor little Al. I've been suffering. I've been working so hard, and I've got so many hours in, and I can't deal with this shit anymore.
Put it on your forehead. There you go.
Yeah. It's just like, oh crap. And there was a time when we were having a party over to our house and playing cards, and I had been snorting quite a bit and pounding the frickin' whiskey. And I went in to go to our bedroom, into our bathroom. I went to go to the bathroom, and boom! Down I go into the tub. Shower curtain comes down. Janan and her girlfriend comes walking in. I'm in the tub with my thing, and I'm still holding, because there's no toilet in front of me. But, and I just started thinking the next day, going, I could have fell the wrong way and hit my head on the spigot. I could have broke my neck. Something bad could have happened to me. So even though I could still continue to do this on the weekend, I remember looking in the mirror going, God, please help me. Because if I continue to do this, and at that time I think I weighed about 198 pounds, most I've ever weighed my whole life. And I'm thinking, gosh, man, please help me, because I know, even though it's just doing 2 days out of 7, 5 days, I'm great.
Yeah.
I don't, I'm starting to recognize there's a problem. And lo and behold, I lose my job and go into depression for a little bit. Jadan really helps get me out of that, and I start kind of really doing some soul searching. And I remember the first time I hit my knees, I felt embarrassed because I hadn't prayed in a long time, other than asking God while I'm looking at myself in the mirror, going to please help me. And I'm like, this is not the kind of help I was asking for, losing my job. Oh my gosh, yes, it was my fault, but still, come on.
Yeah.
And now I go back and look, here it's coming up on, 14 years later. Well, it was 2009. And I'm going,
Wow.
As Nicholas T. Smith would put it, I've connected the dots backwards, and I'm going, this is why that all happened. To put me right where I am at this day. Charity and I was talking on this past September at Sober Day that you saw invited us to, and we were walking around checking out some of the other booths, and we were like, did you ever think you'd be somewhere like this on a weekend, on a Saturday? We're walking around with addicts and, all these recovery places, and it's like, hell, if you would have told me that 3 years ago, I said, yeah, frick, you're up in the night, man. You got
Yeah.
your head up your
And
rear
and
end.
not only that, but with honor. Like I am
Right?
so
Like,
proud.
you're actually
Yeah.
super proud
To
to
be
be
there.
there. Like,
Yep.
it felt
Yeah.
good.
it is
The
what it is.
conversation we were having with people, I mean, you and JD went off as well and, went and talked to people and stuff like that. And gosh, these 2 young gals come up and we've just made a great relationship. Their mom works for Matter Behavior out of Mount Pleasant. Or no, she's here, but we ended up meeting Whitney and had Janie and Whitney on here, and the relationships that we have built from this,
It's just been this progression.
Yeah.
And it's been really neat to watch it unfold. And it hasn't been without, struggle or
Bumps.
Yep.
on the back end. Like,
Right.
but it's so worth it.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely been worth it, and and I'm not trying to speak for charity, but as we mentioned earlier, it's so therapeutic for me. Instead of me having to have insurance or paying a therapist, that I sit down on a couch, or a chair for an hour and talk about my feelings and that, I get to come here with some incredible people, and
One of the main philosophies about staying sober is service work. I mean, for me today, my recovery is based on 4 pillars: physical, emotional, mental, and, let's see, did I do them right? Physical,
Physical, emotional, spiritual,
yeah.
yeah,
And
mental.
the piece about service work is when I'm thinking about you, I'm not thinking about me, which is a really great place to be for most people, but particularly as an addict who is very self-absorbed. Like, took me the longest time to understand that, because I'm like, I'm not selfish. If there's a last piece of cake left, by all means, you have it. I don't want it. But that's not what it means at all. It's
Yeah.
when you can make anything about you. You know what I mean? And
absolutely.
It's so true.
And so, listening to you talk, not only are you around positive people, I just think the element of getting out of self it's cool to watch. And just in a year, like I remember listening to you and Lori for the very first time. It was about this time last year, maybe March.
Yeah, it's March.
And I was walking with my headphones on, listening, and I just thought, man, this is awesome that Al's taken this on. Good for him. Not sure
thank
I
you.
would have the courage, and then now here you are. It's amazing.
Yeah, gosh, we're quickly approaching a year.
With great
Already.
with such great guests.
I know, right? I mean, gosh,
Some powerful stuff.
our goal was to hit 100 subscribers by the end of October. We were at 84 that night, the last day of October, and then the next day, Brad calls me and he's like, "Hey, you got to check this out."
No way. That's
And I'm
awesome.
like, "What?" And I pulled it, and we were at 101. So
Wow.
between the time I checked it on the 31st of October before I went to bed, and
Wow.
I was going on to listen to the guest that came out on Tuesday. I was going back and listening to her podcast, Holly Bates, who was on. And I noticed we're at 145 already. And I'm just going, my gosh. And last week we interviewed a guy, I think it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, from St. George. I've known this guy for 6-7 years from networking.
Really?
Called me up or sent me a message on Messengers one day, and he goes, "Hey, been thinking about it. I'd like to come on your show." And I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" He goes, "Well, you don't know this, but I used to be an addict." I'm
Wow.
like, "What? Are you serious? I've known you for 7 years." He goes, "I've heard other people come on the show and share their stories for the first time, and I figured it's time I share
Wow.
mine." And that was so touching, for me, to be able to have that happen, and to meet people like Charity, her boyfriend Shane. Of course, Shane and I knew each other before Charity and I knew one another, but seeing the connection that's happened there, and now Shane's got his own podcast where, when that first episode comes out, him and his partner Ian talk a lot about spirituality, and I've been in the studio here listening to him, and I mean, it's some really good stuff. I mean, it's incredible. So, hopefully their shows will be coming out soon. But
Yeah, I don't think there's a Netflix series or a movie or anything that you can watch that there's not a storyline with an addict or an alcoholic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I find that I'm so proud of that, right? And a lot of times I I used to be so afraid to tell my story because, being a nurse, it could hurt my reputation. I don't know, all kinds of weird stuff. But the truth is, now I love to share, mostly to try to help the stigma of it all.
Yeah.
Because it really used to be, and I work alongside people every day that still have the attitude. They just need to, make better choices. You know what I mean? And, we all have an opportunity to make choices every day. But the fact that it's just getting more, airtime and podcasts like this, I'm so proud of it myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And, we appreciate everybody that's coming on. I mean, so much. I'm just lost for words with it, and just so grateful that, this opportunity has come up, and God put like Brad in front of me, and, who opened up his arms and said, hey, my studio is yours, and so many people that have come in and sponsored us, to help us build this thing. And there's still other people that we're working with, and Brad and I, we've got so many ideas. I mean, we're like, gosh, we need to start doing this, and let's start doing that. And of course, it takes time, and it takes some funds, but we really believe that we'll get there. Cool. to help more people, because that's what this is about. I mean, if I could make a living doing this and be in this studio every single day and doing exactly what we just did today, man, I'm all in 100%.
That's awesome.
I cannot wait to get in the studio on Thursdays. Brad was making fun of me this past, December, because we chose not to be in the studio in December. And I come in for him and Ida. We were taking this little online class together, and he's like, man, you're struggling, aren't you? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, do we need to find an AA meeting for podcasts? I'm like, I think so, because I'm really missing the studio and missing talking to the guests that we have on and hearing their stories. Yeah, it's just incredible.
And to speak for myself, when I'm here helping you, even in the littlest ways, it really has an impact on me and my own journey. I love that you mentioned service. I remember listening to the episode with Todd Sylvester, and he talks about, how much it helps you when you're actually losing yourself in the service of others. Yeah. And I thought, wow, that's so true. Right. And on that same playing field, so to speak, a very wise woman once told me, we often teach the very things that we also need to learn. And remarkably, when I'm here and I'm sharing even this, it's actually helping me to learn it and to further embed it and to create those new connections. Like, I come away with so much peace and gratitude when I'm helping.
Right. No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to be a part of this. Janessa from Ogden area, she's come down, and she was a guest co-host here not too long ago. And she's like, Al, if I could do this every week with you, I would. I mean, that's how much she's even enjoying it, and
yeah, it's
just an incredible journey, and cool. Janan, she takes all the credit, because she says I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for her addiction. And in a way, she's right. I probably wouldn't, but yeah. Do you mind if I share the good news today before we sign off? So when we stopped for this second commercial break, right before we came back on, my wife was out on a phone call. She had court today, and she has done so well, everything has been completely dropped. So she's cleared and free. She's worked her ass off to make that happen. So I'm just going to shout it out here on the air. I want to say congratulations to my wife for working so hard and giving it everything that she's got to get to this point. And I know Trish has told you many times, this is just the beginning, right? There's a lot of good things that's gonna happen. But yeah. So Trish, is there anything before we end this? Is there anything else that you would like to share? And again, we have time, so I'm not pushing you to try to hurry up. But yeah.
No, let me think. I saw this reel yesterday. It was a Ben Affleck quote, and I actually wrote it down here, but he was basically saying, no matter how much life knocks you down, because it will, it just does, all that matters is that you got to get up. And, you know, I used to, so when I first got sober, it was January 12th, 1998. And I love that date. And when I started relapsing, you know, you can't count that date anymore because it's based off of continuous sobriety. And I was listening to another 12-step program, and they really recognize and honor that initial date you came into recovery. And I love that because it was, you know, it changed my life forever.
Yeah.
Now, the fact that my story has had some relapses in it, you know, it takes what it takes. You know, it took what it took. And I'm just grateful to be sitting here today and not dead like a lot of people when they do relapse. But I talk about that second surrender, and what that was for me was, I know what I have. You know, I conceded to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic. But what the second surrender was about was turning my will and my life over to something greater than me. And, you know, it was so much harder than it needed to be. I literally had a friend in recovery tell me to step away from my life. Enough self-help. Your self-help and your self landed you here. And it just, sometimes I personally have tried too hard. I know there's people that you just wish they'd do something. And my side of things, I tried too hard when the very secret sauce was right there in front of me the whole time. And that is this power that's available to all of us, however you want to call it or recognize it. You know, me, I use the term God, but, you know, I just have to leave this podcast by thanking you. I can't remember if we've taped this part, but when Janan asked me to sponsor her was right after I had a relapse.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And I will forever be grateful, because in my mind, I was worth nothing. Like, alcoholics and addicts, at least for me, you think you're unique. You know, like, this is never going to work for me. Like, I had lines in the sand. Like, there's people in the rooms of AA that are drunk here. Oh, I would never do that until I did bring my big gulp full of vodka, you know, or I'm never going to do that until I did do that. You know what I mean? There was a whole lot of lines in the sand that I crossed. Like, my story is really pretty cute when I first got here. But all that shows me today is the progression of the disease and the yets you eventually try. I love acronyms like STEPS are solution to every problem sober. And NUTS is when I'm not using the steps, my life gets pretty nutty pretty quick. Yeah. So I'm just forever grateful that there is a solution, that I've been open and willing and able to get honest enough to allow the miracles to happen in my life. I'm happy, you know, I'm happily married. I've got a great job. I'm in good standing with my nursing board. I've got 2 beautiful daughters that I love so much. Their husbands are awesome. Great grandkids, you know what I mean? Great grandkids, not great grandkids.
Yeah.
You know, great. Yeah. Like, I've had a friend, a mentor tell me that your recovery is as strong as, the strength of your recovery is based on your relationships. And I'm here to tell you that I'm current and up to date on all of those. And it's a miracle for sure. So, yeah, I'm just, again, so honored that you'd ask me here. I hope that you invite me back.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to have you come back and, you know, even be a co-host, step in and be a co-host. And yeah, I love having new faces and people, because we all see things. Sometimes we see things the same. Mm-hmm. And other times, you know, like Charity or Janessa or Nicole or JD or Janan, they come up with something I would have never thought of, and it's like, oh my gosh, what a great point. Yeah, you know, so it's good to have the conversations. Yeah. When I was at the gym this morning, I saw a gal that I know from the West Jordan Chamber, and her name's Chanel, and I went over and, hey Chanel, what's up, and kind of gave her some knuckles, and she took her earphones out, and the first thing she said, how's your podcast going? I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, just so blessed. It's just really been going great, and we've got some really great guests that's coming on. I mean, January's was full back in November. February's full. We've got one spot left open, I think, in March, and we've already got episodes that we're scheduling for April. But I was talking to her about some things, and she goes, "So who are your co-hosts that comes on?" I'm like, "Hey man, anybody that wants to come on and be a part of this, whether they have addiction or addiction's been in their family or not." And she had a business where she was helping a lot of women who just got divorced, because a lot of times, even with guys, we get divorced and we feel like we're less than and life is over and things. And she helps women get back on their feet and look at them like, you are somebody, And I was asking her about her business, but I'm like, hey, would you want to come on and be on the show? We do it every Thursday. And she goes, that would be kind of interesting. And I'm like, hey, reach out and let me know anytime.
That's cool.
So yeah, feel free to do the same.
Okay.
If 3 weeks from now or whatever, or 2 weeks, you want to say, hey, can I come on and be a guest co-host? It's like, come on in, man. Let's make it happen.
I'll be back.
I'll be back. Yeah. Grab my hand. Grab it now. All right, Charity, is there anything you would like to add before we sign off?
Oh, this was just really great, and it's really great to see you again.
Me too.
I know I loved you the moment I met
For
you.
sure.
What would be one gobbet of goodness that you could share with the audience? What is one thing that you'd like them to take away from this?
Related to recovery or just life in general, or
All of the above.
All of the above. I again, just never give up, and that it's never too late, and never think that you've screwed up so much that there's just no turning back. Jeanette and I will talk a lot that, I'm not here to tell her what to do. I'm here to direct her to, the steps and her higher power to decide. But one thing I do know, if you have 5 problems, that you're going to have 6 if you decide to pick up again. So if you just take the next action when you want to, and also take the next right action when you don't want to. And if you're struggling, to just ask for help. I think one of the most powerful things I mentioned about in my treatment center was learning that I wasn't alone, because I just felt how could somebody like me who knows better, land up in this position? Like, my mom couldn't even say the word cocaine. Like, I remember hearing her say it, and I was like, Mom, I never even heard her say a cuss word, you know what I mean? And then here she's got a daughter that's got these drug addiction problems, and so I would just say that it's never too late. Reach out your hand, ask for help. There's people, including myself, here that love you, and what I can't do alone, we can do together.
Love it.
That's
great. Yeah.
So good.
Anything else, ladies? No?
It's an honor.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely, it was an honor to have you here with us today, Tricia. So thank you so much, and Charity, thank you again
Yes.
for stepping
thank
up
you.
and coming to the studio and being with us today. So greatly appreciate it.
Feels good to be here.
So guys, keep watching, man. We've got some great episodes that are coming up, and please, the comments again. We just got one just the other day that I shared on Facebook. Man, it's so great to see the lives that this podcast is changing. So your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you for all your love and your kindness. And we're going to leave you with this, as we do with every show. Addiction is giving up everything for one thing. Recovery is giving up one thing for everything. We're out.